Farcaster. We are here for another artist spotlight for Here for the Art, GM Farcaster's art and artist program to bring more of the amazing Farcaster art that you see on your timeline into your wallet. And we're here this time with Chris CoCreated, and I am really, really, really excited about this for many reasons. Number one being that Chris is creating a piece, which you will see at the end of this episode because it will be out by then. It's not quite ready yet. This is what we've been doing too. We keep doing that. I keep doing the interviews before the piece is ready. So it's like we can't even show it on the screen. But I'm really excited because we've talked about what it is, and it's going to really be so similar to some of the art you've done, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So I'm really excited about that because this is a very special piece for our very special episode 100 at FarCon. And then also because Chris is one of my, oldest and dearest nounish friends. So Chris, welcome. And how are you doing today, GM?
GM, thanks, Prof. Yeah, I'm doing great. It's we're recording this on a Sunday. I've had a pretty chill day. I've been for a walk. I had some brunch. Yeah, it's all good.
Nice.
Make some art. Wrestled with some data.
Nice.
I don't enjoy the data bit, but
yeah, that's never fun. The data bit's never fun. That's me. I'm having a very not chill day whatsoever, and especially when it comes to all the grading that I'm getting done right now. So anyway, but this is going to be the highlight of my Sunday. And I really want to dive in. So Chris and I know each other more from originally from the Nouns ecosystem, and then got to connect more through Farcaster. And you were at FarCon last year, which was amazing. And being a part of that, like very special FarCon, the beta, and with 70 people in the room. Let me actually dive into a little bit with that, because you had one of the lightning talks at the original FarCon that's coming up this week. So this will be actually launching on, if all goes well, Friday of this year's FarCon. So talk a little bit about what you did last year with FarCon and that lightning talk you did.
Yes, well, getting to FarCon was a thing.
That's right.
You might have noticed from my accent that I'm English. I'm based in the southeast coast of the UK, about an hour or so from London. And I was just kind of doing my thing on Farcaster and saw FarCon going on. It's like, oh, great, the Americans are doing their thing, good for them. And then someone put out a tweet that was like a cast shit.
Wow. It's been a while since you did that.
Yeah. Well, that was back in history days, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of went, if we did a bursary, who would you come and how much would it cost? And that was like the first time I was like, oh, right, actually, what would it be? And I did the maths and everything. There weren't any bursaries in the end. But what did happen was that Johnny launched Fabric's first platform, their crowdfunding.
So that's nonlinear Johnny Mac. Yeah.
Exactly.
So this is pre-hypersub.
This
is pre-hypersub. This is Fabric's crowdfi kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I've learned to do is when something drops, jump on it straight away. Like, it took me about a year and a half to learn that. And this was the first application of that. And Johnny dropped it, and it was like, just as I've been thinking about this. And I was like, fuck it, let's go. And I just chucked it up and I said, I want to come to FarCon. Will you crowdfund me? And yeah, Johnny got right behind it. The community got right behind it. Les was huge on it because I was we were having some chats around the background of the jacket and stuff. And so there I was, and I came. And I did a co-creation forum with everyone at FarCon in that afternoon. And
it was really fun. I remember that. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was very fun. And yeah, we kind of rooted around trying to distill what Farcaster was, and then got everyone to generate an image off the back of it, which all got fed into a big kind of pixel grid of the arch, because pretty much for the first 6 months I was just making work with arches.
And maybe we should let's start there a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your co-created art. I think that's a good place to start. So I wanted to start with this is the co-created channel.
Yeah.
And down here we have a little sort of summary of some of these art pieces that are pretty amazing. And so talk a little bit about what is co-created to you, and what is that process like? So what are we talking about when we talk about a co-created work? And then I'll bring that back on the screen in a sec.
So I fundamentally see myself as a community artist, and that I'm kind of part artist, part facilitator, and that the work is always collaborative. For and with is what I normally talk about. Like, I'm making work for and with a group of people. So like this Friday is for and with GM Farcaster, and sometimes it's really light, as in the with part is that people collect, and by virtue of collecting, they feature in the art in some way. Often their name or their PFP is in the art, and sometimes it's much deeper. So I've got a piece that I'm working on called photosynthesis at the moment, which is up there at the top, and that's working deeply in collaboration with some just phenomenal artists on Farcaster. Photographers are putting their work in, and those works are getting merged, and then the collector chooses if they become art or not. And so they, by choosing to mint, it becomes an artwork. And if they look at the synthesis and they don't think it's of quality, it's resonating, then it will disappear into the ether. And so I'm always kind of playing with that in various ways. This WeCast was one of the very first Farcaster ones. That was kind of, I think, sort of when I arrived, because I didn't know what I was doing, and in many ways I still don't. And that's part of the kind of the joy of the exploration, right? None of us know what we're doing because there's so much stuff here, and it's just kind of keep exploring and playing. And it's just been such an interesting space to come into, because I dived in deep in kind of November 21, like the last top, basically went in way too hard, and but in that process found just the most creative, interesting space that I've ever been in my life, and it's just been such a joy and energetic thing to be part of, really. And so yeah, I've kind of kept diving and experimenting. So when I landed in Farcaster,
that was another. I'm just pulling this one up too. This is We Are Farcaster. I think this is the first one, right?
No, that was just
other one. Okay.
Yeah, this was pre-permissionless. This was kind of soon after. So that's that's August. Whereas the other one with the PFPs was, I think, April off the top of my head, and that was the first Droposal in purple.
Right.
So Chris CoCreated made that happen. And yeah, half the proceeds went to purple, and it was by far the most successful piece of art that I'd done. And I actually got to do a shout out to Brad Q, who is worth looking up if you're not. He's a very thoughtful, deep guy, and he kind of helped me promote the very first piece on Farcaster. That was actually the second piece, but yeah, kind of built my relationship in, and I think people kind of were like, oh, this is actually really interesting. And that was kind of a bit of a surprise to me, because when you're outside of a thing, everything always feels bigger than it is. I hadn't really clocked that it was 1,000 or so people just active, looking for interesting stuff.
Yeah, 938 active daily users at pre-permissionless.
Right,
and we know that because of the OG tokens that were airdropped, so we can clock exactly what that number was. So I want to step back just a little bit and talk about your process, because this is really a way of merging data with art and having that data sort of become the art. And can you talk a little bit about what's happening in the background for those who are of the more technical variety, who might find that interesting? So how are you pulling together something like this piece with the PFPs and the arch? And like, how is that all coming together to create this piece?
So they're kind of three different chunks of it. One is getting essentially an array of coordinates, which that arch is. It's like basically almost 2,000 coordinates on there. And that was how many people were casting in a week, out of interest back then. And so kind of, write some code, just HTML, JavaScript to get those data points out. Then there's the piece of pulling the data in, which Warpcast actually made really easy back a year ago. They just had an API, and I could pull that out without, I think it was entirely, I don't think there's any login or anything like that. So, because I've kind of got a lot of dev skills together by just hacking. But yeah, a year ago, I was like just getting an API to work. Oh God. And then I had cause cross permission. Anyway, you don't want to know, but I do distinctly remember it being 2 a.m. lying in a bedroom in Amsterdam with my wife asleep there and my daughter asleep there. And like, I got Pugson's PFP to show up where I actually needed it in the live thing. Funny. And I was like, oh yes. That was deeply pleasing moment. Anyway, so that was literally just kind of an API call at the point. But now I'm using either Naynar or Airstack or a combination of the two to get the data out. And actually both those guys deserve a massive shout out, because the support's just been incredible. Rish, and like I've been just texting with him today and the whole team, because about stuff, and it's like Sunday afternoon or whatever, and they're just constantly on it, building and improving. The Airstack guys, I ran up a bill for 300 quid the other week because I just hadn't implemented a loop properly.
Oh, wow.
Just trying to pull some data, and like at some point, when a bit of code's been running a long time and you're like, this doesn't feel right.
I was just talking about something similar. It's like something happens and you're like, this doesn't feel right.
Doesn't feel right.
This can't be right. Something's wrong.
Yeah. And they just write it off.
Amazing.
Just like,
amazing.
It's fine.
And I have to say, we're in this, and Adrian and I talk about this all the time, that we're in this little incubator, and we're always trying these new. We're essentially just beta testers, just forecast beta, just constant beta testing of things. So you have to have some kind of patience, not only for the teams, but also the users, right? Who might mess something up or do something wrong because you may not have even thought they were going to use that in that way or whatever it is. So there's always these like learning moments, which is what makes it exciting, right? That's what makes it, this whole entire ecosystem, so fun. And I love that, for me, like NFTs are all about this intersection of art and tech. And nouns is in particular that we've, got to know each other through, that's exactly what that is, right? The intersection of art and tech. And so I feel like, you're really displaying that in your work. It's really about that, on the back end, that text on the back end, and the front end is this beautiful art that, comes from all the work that's happening in the back end. And that's just so symbolic of everything we're doing here with everything that we're a part of. So it's pretty exciting.
That's very cool.
Yeah. But I love that you're like awake trying to get that one thing to pop. And I had those moments where it's like 2 a.m. and then finally something works. And you're like, yes,
yeah.
finally, that thing that you're like, this won't work. Why won't it work?
Yeah, I've just had a week of that. I like finally cooking up my own mint capability, which is I'm super excited to. So I'm now photosynthesis is going to be the first piece where as a user you can come onto my website and actually mint the piece from code that I've written on the page, which is something that I've wanted to do for like the past couple of years, and it's like finally pushed me to actually get that. So I'm really excited to have that in my toolkit going forward, because there's a lot of things that I want to be making collaboratively with people where they can just create in that moment, and it will like automatically update the artwork in it to say bring your PFP or your name into a piece. So
let's dive in a little bit more into some of these pieces too. On that note, so I'm just going to scroll down. So these are going to be a little. Actually, let me scroll all the way down and start back here. So We Are Nownish is one of the first ones that you did with the PFPs, and sort of and this one is in the Noggles. With the different PFPs of those who, was it people who minted? I can't remember exactly how you pulled the data. Who
you just have to like it to get in, and
that's what it was.
And this was actually
on Twitter. This was right. Wasn't this on Twitter?
It was both. Yeah. So it's funded by the Nouns, through Nouncil. So it was a Nouncil permissionless grant. Back over a year ago, and I did it both on Twitters before they started charging for their API.
Yes, right.
And I thought, like, I'm going to do this every 6 months, and then
or it'll cost you $50,000 now. So maybe not.
But I did do it on Farcaster as well, so it actually has both Twitter and Farcaster likes combined into it. But yeah, that's like, I have a very long list of things I want to do, and somewhere around about number 10 is to re-release this on Farcaster.
Oh, I love it. And then this was the one we just mentioned about with purple, and this was all active users in the arch sorted by FID and other users in the background, which I love this. It was the moment it moved to OP, right? Was it?
And what was really nice with this is that I used, yes, it was the moment that we moved to OP, just before permissionless. And with this, I used highlights, which is another great tool and platform out there. And I loaded in the F names and the wallet addresses. So if you minted using the wallet that's attached to your F name, then your name is highlighted within the piece.
I love all these little subtle things that you do within the different pieces that make it a little different, but you do feel like you're a part of it. Going way back. This is how I first encountered you. Was noun profiles, and this is, so for those who don't know any idea what we're looking at, these are the nouns that but sideways. So that's why you see this little the Noggles are sideways, and let me see if can I move this? Oops, nope. That's not what I wanted to do. Let me go back. They would move too. You had a conga line too, which I don't have up, but I loved the conga. The conga was lovely. And it was really fun. And to me, this was like just so fun and such a different perspective. And it kind of, it really stood out to me. And I loved like sort of this approach of like, let's look at this a little differently. And that to me, I feel like is all of your art. And then going to this is Zora Chain Inception, but you've done similar pieces for base and for all different, I think OP and different sort of data pulls. And so what's this one? And then kind of just talk about this concept in general, like what you're doing here behind the scenes.
So this was at the very start of Zora Chain. And what I did was I pulled the first 111,111 users 11111 on the chain, and everyone that had an active ENS went into this piece. And so you can see the Zorb is made from all the users'
Love it.
names.
I know, and you know what's fun is when I see something like this too, I know I'm in there somewhere, even if I can't find me. I know I'm there, which is really cool.
And this is just the GIF playing, but with the actual HTML piece, then it zooms into different areas, and you can also click in and play around and actually go and find yourself if you want to. And that one just went crazy. That was like 6,000 and something minutes, which was real kind of like wow. And that's that made a significant difference to me and my kind of experience of being here, because I made some proper money for the first time, and then I was able to take some out and go to my wife, look, this isn't just me and like
a total waste of time.
Yeah, it's not time to stop. Yeah, I mean, I know we're massively down on the initial investment, but I got this, and look, if I keep doing it, there's potential and things, and it started to kind of shift.
And let's talk about related to that is OP, the OP grant, and We Are the Art, because that was all, you know, all these things are sort of connected, and even the Enjoy airdrop, which we can talk about too, but. We Heart the Art. I almost said We Are the Art. We Heart the Art. Yeah. We Love the Art by OP Foundation. They did a huge grant to artists that had minted on chain, and it was really based on. So there was two things sort of happening at the same time. There was like this competition, but then there was also this sort of airdrop 4, which gave you based on your activity on chain and creations on chain. So anyone, it was permission. You didn't have to apply. It was just like, here's money from the sky. And some of the more prolific creators hit that max level, and you were one of them. And that was had to be amazing feeling. But then also the We Heart the Art grant program, you also were part of that as well, and that was all sort of connected. And that so talk about that, like, feeling of getting that recognition and what that means to an artist.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird like kind of all part of this quite strange transformative 6 months that I feel has gone on, certainly for me. Less than that, actually, thinking about it. That OP drop was February.
January,
was it? Okay,
January, February
this year,
somewhere around
this
there.
Year, like,
so 300 years ago. I mean, 3 months ago, something like that.
Yeah, it was like the beginning. We were in the middle of winter. Things were pretty quiet, really. You know, like Farcaster had gone permissionless, but not much was going on, and it's like, it was definitely feeling kind of stressful. And in the real world, I run a care business, and that was hard work, and just like, what's going on? And then it's like, holy shit. I just like, I was walking, I was just checking my wallet, because I'd seen it. I'd seen the airdrop, and there was like 6,000 OP, and I did not know what that meant. It just happened on my feed. I was walking out the door, I was picking my daughter up from dance, and I'm like just walking in the dark, haven't got her, and I'm like, I looked to my wallet, and I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, look, I showed it to my wife, and she was like, what am I looking at?
What does that mean?
Yeah, I'm like, I just got that. And yeah, God, that is really emotional, because it's two things. It's like, one is it kind of creates some security, and it's like, because I freaking love being here, but it's always felt precarious, and like everything else that's going on.
There's an opportunity cost. There's an opportunity cost. Yeah, huge massive one. And it's hard to explain that. You have an opportunity cost not only of actual funds, because it takes funds to create some of these things and use these tools, but also the time, right? The time is huge.
Totally.
You're taking away from family, you're taking away from your other work, and it's just, you know, it's challenging.
Yeah. And my wife's like, you should be getting yourself qualified to get a proper job as a backup if things don't work out with the care company. And like, why are you making this art? And it's like, and then something like that happens, and it's like there's two things. It's A, it's a sense of relief, and B, it's this strange thing of like, oh, people actually noticed, like, and this strange, not strange, it is a validation, and I think I'm certainly not alone in kind of wanting to feel seen, and like what I was doing made a difference, because like my first, thrilled and fascinated by Web3 as I was, my first 18 months here, or certainly a year here, felt like I think I'm doing really interesting things, and I think there's like 10 people that
it was crickets
noticed. Yeah, it really did. You know, like I could count on my fingers like the people that I thought paid any attention. And actually, if you look back at the first piece that I made, there's still like only 20 people hold that or something, and it was a limited it was a limited edition of 100. And actually writing it, I'm really scared that only 5 people would mint this. That really was the case for quite a long time. But yeah, there are some proper OG co-creative fans in there.
I think that I think you hit on the biggest thing, and I think that's resonates probably with every artist, is that you're creating things that you want to see in the world, right? You're creating things sort of for you, but also for others. And getting that recognition is a huge part of it, is huge, because it says, okay, there's other people who appreciate what I'm doing. And I think that's timeless. It's not just about this moment. You know, you can think back to, you know, Van Gogh dying with, you know, no recognition, no money, all of those things. The starving artist is the, you know, goes way, way back to that traditional kind of thing.
Yeah.
And where, you know, sometimes people are not recognized until it takes a long time to get that recognition, or to find your audience. It can be both things.
And that's the amazing thing about this space, right? Is there are so many different mechanisms that are coming now.
Yes.
And, you know, like those little tips every day. It's like, oh, this actually made a difference to someone, right? That I did a thing that resonated. And it's you know, we've got to, obviously, as an artist, as any creator, needs to get a certain amount of income to function. But actually, I think alongside that, there's just getting enough recognition, enough little dopamine hits to keep you going. Yeah, to keep going with it.
That's patrons, right? That was patrons of the art. That was the whole point of them, is to provide that enough of a, you know, income for an artist to continue to create. And I feel like that's exactly what a lot of this is, you know, whether it's something large like a grant program, or something small like a DGen tip, or some other kind of tip on there, just to say, hey, I see you and I really like what you're doing. Sometimes even just a like or a recast or whatever it is, just that is often really uplifting, of somebody just saying, hey, I really like what you're doing and I want to share it with others. Even minting. So, you know, August was when Base launched. Base and Zornet and all, you know, the OP stack, you know, L2s. And that's when that L2 minting really started to take off. That is not that long ago. No, but making it right, isn't that crazy?
And actually, just while you're mentioning that, like Jesse, and like, for an example of leadership, oh my gosh, like just phenomenal. And he, like, him taking what I was doing seriously was just massive. Like that probably took me through from like August to Christmas time kind of thing, from a almost from an energetic perspective. Because like I did Base Begins, and he minted 77 of those.
Wow.
And he came in on my fundraise. He's there on the hyper sub that I've got, and it's just like, but the thing is, I know he's not just doing that for me. He's doing that for literally hundreds of creators and builders, and it's phenomenally impressive. And
speaking of and there's two things that just came to mind on that. Just making it so reasonable where people don't have to waste a lot of gas to collect, huge, so that you can have these people who can in for $1, $2, $3, whatever it is at that moment, and collect your art without a second thought is tremendous. Integrating with warps made it even easier, in frames, easier. So all these little things make it so much easier to collect. And then you mentioned the hyper sub of people being able to subscribe for a reasonable amount as well, and be able to collect your work is pretty amazing also. And on the point about Base, they just went through and themselves as mint.base.eth and subscribed to a whole bunch of different hyper subs by artists and creators. And that level of support is, you can't, I think that can't be underestimated, how much that makes a huge difference to those who are creating. It made a huge, it was huge, like, moment for us when we saw that for GM Farcaster. And I know they did that they put a list out, and there had to be, I don't even know how many there were.
It was maybe 50 or something. I don't know.
It was a ton. It was like all of them. Anything that was on Base, they did. And it was pretty incredible to see that. And I was really impressed by, again, that leadership, right? That support level that, we see you. It really helps you to keep going. And it's a huge difference. It's that hug. It's that hug. That's the hug right there, And let's talk a little bit about your hyper sub. You were one of the first. I think Oxen was the first, if I remember correctly, but I think you were like, I don't know, second, third, somewhere in there.
Second, third, something like that. Yeah.
So how did that come about? And just talk a little bit about what that's meant, and sort of, I know that I think you even got a grant from them, if I remember correctly, because it was that early.
Yeah,
to kind of encourage you to do it in the first place.
Kind of like Johnny Mac Nonlinear has always been like just super supportive, and he's super supportive of all the creators that are in with him. And but personally for me, like the time and attention and interest he put into my work and the enthusiasm for it just kind of made me want to be part of what he's making, if you know what I mean. Like aside from the fact it's beautifully designed, it's a great platform, the UX is great, it's actually that kind of personal bit that certainly for me makes a massive difference. Anyway, I've been tracking just what Fabric are up to, and saw that this was coming through, and I'm like, hell yeah, this is exactly what I need as well, because it's the stability, right? I think we're getting more modes of stability from minting, and actually starting to become a somewhat reliable route. But at the time it was like, there is no stability here. I'm going to spend days of my life building a thing, and then maybe 10 people will mint it, or maybe 6,000 people will mint it, and that's kind of outside of my control to an extent.
Totally.
So I'm like, hell yeah. And I managed to come up with a really complicated way of doing it. We did like a crowd fund leading into a hyper sub. One thing I know about myself is like, how can I ask myself the question, how can I make it simpler?
That's definitely something you need to work on.
Oh yeah. But then also
most of the time you're like, how can I make this more complicated?
But I suppose on the flip side, like,
it's more fun.
I make I wouldn't end up making the kind of stuff that I've ended up making if I was trying to make it simple. So anyway, so I started by releasing the collaborator token, which was first off. It was that whole crowdfund was match fund by Fabric, which made a huge difference. And it also meant that all of those early supporters were in for double what they were putting in. So it was really significant. But what's also happened was like ETH, the price of ETH went up through this period, which is like, and I think the guys are addressing that with V2 of the contract. I don't know, but they've got stuff coming. But yeah, the collaborator was really for two reasons. People who want to be along with the journey and want to fuel it in one way or another, either just financially, because I know there's some very busy people who love what I'm doing, who best will in the world ain't gonna get involved, but like putting some funds in means we stay connected and I drop all my work. And then there's another group of people who are like people who want to be part of the this is still the collaborators, people who want to be creatively kind of intimately on that journey with me and backstage, and I do all sorts of extra stuff for them, and they get extra special pieces, and they're gonna get early access on photosynthesis. They're going to get free hugs coming their way, which we haven't even talked about yet, but that's a collab with Jay Valeska that's coming down the track. On-chain hugs to come soon. Anyway, all of that is within the collaborator. And then I was like, this is great, but it's not an accessible entry point into my world. And so that's why I put out the collector. Yes. Exactly. And that is less than a free mint.
Wow, I didn't even realize that. You're right.
Yep. So super accessible. And with I've said I'll definitely give you one thing every month. It's actually going to be two things next month because I'm got a lot on this month. Making a piece for GM Farcaster, you know.
Yes. Are you? I didn't know that.
And but what happens with this is if you've got more than if you've got 6 months subscription, then you get to pick 5 friends every month to get an airdrop of whatever the piece is. And
crazy.
Yeah,
it's such a cool. So and when Adrian and I were setting up our hypersub, we were thinking about, and this is what makes me think of this, is we were thinking about how do we make this accessible? Like it's a cup of coffee, it's something once a month, something that anybody can pick up and, have access to, who may not want every single piece, every single episode in our case. But they might want to support, and they may want, occasional benefits that we throw out there, but it's also something really accessible. And that, to me, that's what this one is as well, is like, how do you allow for more people to kind of come into the fold? And exactly, I love this. Yeah. And by the way, what we've been doing and what we're going to continue to do is to give away a subscription to the hypersub of the artists that we support, that are part of Here for the Art. So we've already done that for Max. We're going to be doing that for Chris CoCreated and for you as well. So that'll be something
amazing
that we do very soon with this drop. So yeah, very excited to do that as well, and to continue to support. That seems to me like a really great way to, continue to have these sort of collaborations, if you will.
Exactly.
So we're running a little long on time. So I want to give you a moment to talk about two things. Actually, let me show that again. The hug that you're working on with Jay Valeska. What exactly is that? And what's that going to be that's coming? And then let's circle back to the GM Farcaster piece and talk a little bit more about that. And then hopefully, when this drops, it'll be showed at the end of this episode. So Perfect. What is the hug piece?
So the hug piece it developed out of the piece that you can see there, which was a hug between everyone that was kind of in the co-created world and their friends. And what we built is an on-chain mechanic where I can send you a hug, and my handle will be in the left-hand person, and your handle will be in the right-hand person, and it's a custom generated NFT just between you and me.
I love it.
That's
so cool.
Yeah, it's difficult. Actually, I'm going to grab one right here. And this is a printed out one that I actually did for me and my daughter.
That's so cute.
Which, that's a whole nother set of ideas, but I am thinking about making it digital as well. And so there's an on-chain mechanic. It's going to be minted in frame. So I will offer you a hug, and you will, if you want to, and I will pay for the hug. And if you want to accept it, then you accept it on chain.
Consensual hugs on chain too. Only consensual hugs.
Yeah, only consensual.
Which I think is funny. I love that. I think that's funny. And then we have the GM Farcaster piece coming as well. And so talk about like that mechanic and what exactly that's going to encompass and how that's coming together.
Yeah, so this is the first PFP piece I've done in quite a while, I think.
Yeah, probably since the Arch, right? I think, maybe.
Yeah, it might be, you know. Yeah. So essentially everyone that is supporting GM Farcaster, either with a subscription or by being on the show, is going to appear in the GM that is the heart of the piece. Everyone that's minted a episode of the show will have their name in the background, and then kind of my core motif, which is "We are the art." And I think that's kind of the thing that I find so interesting about this space, is that it's actually the communities around the artwork that get created by the artwork and our participation that is kind of what's profoundly different about the work that's created here, as opposed to anything that's gone before. And so yeah, it has the phrase "We are GM Farcaster" on it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We are the GM. There you go. We are the art. We are the GM. We are the GM Farcaster. I love that. This is going to be amazing. I cannot wait to see this piece. I'm super excited. Thank you, Chris, for stepping up to do this, specifically for the 100th episode.
Total pleasure.
It's like really special to me that you're a part of this, and you're not going to be at FarCon in LA, but you are going to be at FarawayCon in the UK, and
yes,
a lot of our European friends will be there too. And so, you know, please give a hug, consensual only, to our John and our other big supporters of GM Farcaster there, who will be a part of this piece. And we're so excited. We're so excited to see everyone at FarCon, but also I'm excited that you at least get to have your own version of that in the UK, which is amazing.
So are we. And I'm making a co-created pice live there,
right. Yeah.
which will be fingers crossed shown at the gallery art nights on that Friday evening.
Amazing.
So there'll be a really nice little connection. And look out for the FarCon co-created piece as well. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So excited. There's a lot going on. It's a little bit going on this week for you, Chris. But thank you so much for taking the time. I'm glad we were able to connect before, you know, this week, because it is going to be crazy and busy, but amazing. And lots of great pieces coming out. And go check out Chris's Hypersub and his website as well to learn more. CoCreated.xyz/Chris for all his pieces. And thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Such a pleasure, Prof. Appreciate you too. Have a lovely Sunday.
You too. And for everybody watching, bye-bye.